Welcome to Eureka's video classroom. In today's video training, we're going to go over some of the reports that you can access in Webpos. So some of these reports can be for sales, some of these reports can be for commissions, anything like that that can be useful and helpful for you to continue growing your business is available in Webpos. So we're going to take an overview look on how and where to access those reports. So what we want to do is, the first thing we want to do is log on to Webpos. So let's open Webpos up. We're going to type in our username and our password. And we're going to enter submit. And it's going to log us on to Webpos. This is our homepage in Webpos where all of our products that we could sell are located. And then if you notice on your left, you have a few different tabs. And the tab that we want to select is called reporting. So you want to select the reporting tab. So we're going to click on that. And this is where we're going to access our different types of reports. So it's going to redirect us into another page in Webpos, and this is considered to be our reporting page. So here we have quite a few reports that you could access at any time. Now we're just going to go over some of the basic reports. We're not going to go over each report. So some of the reports that we know are very useful for the dealer in our daily transaction detail report. This gives us details regarding every transaction that we've processed in our web POS since from whatever date that you want to request it from. So if we go on to selecting, let's say, the 1st of February to the 5th, and if you have multiple users, like if you have different employees and they all have their own login credentials, you could even select a specific employee that you want to see what their daily transactions are like. This report could be used for a lot of information, or you could just pull a report with all of your sales or all of your employees. So we're just going to run that report and go to download results. So you have your transaction ID column. For each transaction has its own transaction ID. And then some of the other important columns is like invoice ID. So for all of those transactions, you could locate, if you're looking for a specific transaction and you want to see when you got charged for it or in what invoice, the invoice ID is actually very helpful because you could now track it by locating that invoice ID and locating your invoice. It gives you the settlement date and then your terminal ID, whichever terminal ID you use, the username. So if you want to break it down and find out sales on a specific user, you could always filter this report for that user. So one of the users here is Batman, so that's the user that processed all these payments. And then there's a product list, product title, so the type of product that was processed. So that could be helpful. And then the type, whether it was sold or if you have any refunds, like this one right here, this was processed as a refund. So it gives you that type of information. The time and date that transaction posted. Your control number, just in case you need a control number by any chance. And then some other information like commission, costs, and transaction number, and top-up reference number. So all of this, you could run a report just to pull up sales, anything like that. This report is very useful. If you were looking for a transaction ID to do a refund, you could always pull this report and it'll give you that information. So that is pretty useful. Now another useful report is daily sales summary. So this gives you, let's say we go down to the 1st to the 5th, view results. So this breaks it down. It gives you a summary of your whole day. So we've ran the report from the 1st of February all the way to the 5th, and it gives you, it doesn't break it down into specific transactions. It just gives you the total amount. So if you wanted to know at the end of the day how much you process in transactions, how much money you took in, this would be a useful report to give you a summary of that. Now if we scroll down, under transaction reports, look up refundable transaction. If we click on that and go to the top, you have a few categories that you can enter some information. You don't have to. You could just run the report by default. If you are looking for something specific and have the control number or transaction number, you could always enter it. But if you just want to look at the most recent refunds your store has processed, you could go to download results. It's going to generate a report, and it's going to show you all the most recent refunds your store has processed. It's going to give you the time and the date of that refund, the type of product that was refunded, the value of that product, the fee, the service fee, if there was anything, the client reference number, transaction number, and control number. It's also going to give you information on who processed that refund. So if you have multiple employees with multiple logins, or they all have their individual login, you'll be able to tell who processed that type of refund for that specific transaction. So let's close out to this. Let's go check out what else we can pull up. And then under transaction reports, you have activation transaction detail report, T-Mobile activations with commissions if you do those type of products, clear transactions, any transactions that were cleared and went through, refund details if you want more specifics on any type of refund you process, look up transaction if you have a transaction that you want to look up because you want to find out how much was paid or anything like that. Those are all useful reports that you can generate. Another common and useful report is your invoice reports. Now all of these reports are very useful as well. The most common one would be the search invoices. Now reasons you would use this report is to locate an invoice that you probably haven't received yet, or if you wanted to know if you wanted to run a couple invoices and go against your transaction details and make sure everything's being processed correctly, or you don't have access to your emails and you want an invoice. There's many reasons that you could use this report, but this report is to generate your invoices. So some of the fields that you can enter are the most recent, search the most recent invoice. You can enter a starting date and an end date. So it's going to pull up. What's going to happen is that when you put a starting date and ending date, it's going to give you all of those invoices. So if we go to the first, or let's actually go a little bit further. So let's go to the 26th of January all the way to the 5th of February. So that's our starting date is the 26th and our ending date is the 5th of February. We're going to search by invoice. Search by invoice charge. If you want to locate anything by a specific charge, you could put that as a minimum and a maximum. There's many ways that you could search an invoice. Or if you want to look for, you have the invoice ID because you've located it in a transaction report, a detailed transaction report, you could always enter that information here and it will pull up that. So let's say we just want to pull up invoices from the 26th to the 5th. So we're going to go to view result. So it's going to give us invoice IDs right here. That's the first column. Invoice date, that's when the invoice was created and issued. The credits that you receive for that invoice, if it's a commissions invoice, and then the debits, if there's any invoices that are for transactions that are being charged. So that's the difference between credits and debits. Payment applied, doesn't really have any information. Payment date, so when something was paid out, it gives you a date, or when it's going to be paid out for that invoice, it gives you that payment date. and then remainder balance. So it's going to give you a balance of your overall transactions. So if we wanted to go in and download the invoice, we could go to download invoice, and it's going to actually download that invoice for us. If we want to go and look into the transactions and pull up like a report in Excel, we could do that information as well. So there's many ways that you could use this report. Just to pull up invoice, if you want another copy of it, there's many reasons that you could use this type of report. So that's a very useful, common report to access in Webpos. Now, if we go down to our next set of reports, it's commissions. So if you are a Boost dealer and you want to know how many commissions you're making or when you're getting paid for your commissions, your commission payment detail report is actually the most common report to use for that information. This report, commission payment detail report, tells you when the commission was paid out by date. So it's going to show you, if we go back, let's say a month, and we go to the end of that month, it's going to, and then we leave. All of this, by the way, is optional. So if you wanted to just go to view results or download results, it's going to download a default of 1 month. So you don't have to put any of this information in. But let's say we do want to figure out how much commissions we've earned in the month of January. So we're going to put in the start date and the end date. And then everything else we're going to leave blank or optional. So, and just to go over this information, if you wanted to break it down by the payment type, like the type of commission you earn, you could select that so that it only brings back that specific commission. If you want to look at all the commissions, then it's going to pull up all the commissions if you leave it blank. And then if you're going into like payment sequence for new activations, you can pull up all your first payments, your second payments, and your third payments. So there's many ways of running this report, but we're just going to go over the basics. So I'm going to pull a report from the first to the last day of that month. So we're going to go to download results. So we downloaded the report, and our report, this is the commission payment detail report. So on this report, you have your payment date. So this is the day that you receive payment for your commission. The second one is, the second column is the business name, business address, your account ID, your retailer ID, your terminal ID, the Sprint, the payment source. Where did this commission come from? Would be from Sprint. So Sprint is a payment source for that commission. The type, the payment type, so the type of commission that you received. So new activation, any type of promotions that are going, it's going to give you a description of that type of commission that you're being paid out for. So you have new activation bonuses, you have any type of promos that are going on, it's going to give you a description for that type of commission that you're receiving. So, and it's going to give you the ESN of that activation that you're getting paid out for or receiving a commission for, and then phone number, sequence, and then the amount that you were paid and the payment description. So on 1/30/2015, we received a $79.99 commission from Sprint. And if we go back to our invoice on our settlement date, we will be able to locate this payment in our invoice. So this report is very useful for tracking when you got paid your commissions. So, and it also, for new activation bonuses, it gives you the first payment, second payment, third payment. So you received a bunch of new activations and you got paid those commissions for that type of activation. So again, this report is very useful to keep track of when you got paid your commissions for any type of activations or promotions that are being rolled out by Boost. So very useful report. So we're going to close that out. We're going to go back to commissions, and then you have dealer commissions by month if you wanted to be more specific on the type of commissions by month. Now our next column down is Sprint activations. So Sprint activations, there's a few in here that are pretty common and very useful for you to use. So one of them is your Sprint commission status. So this report generates a count of all the handsets for activations that were created. So it's going to pull up a list of all the activations that your store has processed, and it's going to give you a status of where it is in regards to first, second, or third month payment. So we're going to just run a report from the 1st to, let's say, the 9th of January. We're going to leave the ESN blank as optional, so it pulls up all the activations. If I want to look for a specific type of activation or for only one specific phone, then I would put in the ESN if I know it. If I don't know it, then I would leave it blank. And then we're going to click on download result. So this report provides some other information. So on the first column, it says activation status. So it's going to tell us whether it's active or deactivated. That means whether the phone number that we activated is still active or deactivated. It's going to let you know. And then the next column, the deactivation date, on this one, this phone was deactivated on the 4th. So it tells us that on the 4th, this phone no longer was an active number. So all of the active ones are the ones that you're supposed to receive payment for. So the status, that gives you the status of that activation. It tells us other information like our retailer account number, our terminal ID number, the activation date. So on the 9th of January, we did 4 activations, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to give us a subscriber ID, the ESN number for that activation, the phone number for that activation, and the base plan that we selected for that activation. So if we keep scrolling down, we're going to have the payment type. We receive 90% because of the plan that we selected, or whatever tier, whatever determines for you to get that 90%. You receive 90% for that activation. You receive your first payment commission already at $49.50 for that 90%. And it shows that this activation has not received a second payment for second commission. So, and if you keep scrolling down, some of them have because they already made that tier. So this report gives you useful information regarding your commission status or your activation status. It tells us whether a phone is active, it tells us the ESN, the phone number, the base plan of that activation, and it tells us whether we got our first, second, or third commission for that activation. It doesn't tell us the date, but if we cross-reference it with the commission payment detail report and we locate the commission by ESN, then we can determine when we actually got paid the $49.50 for this activation. So this is also, like I said, a very useful report. And you also, if you ever enter any type of appeals, Sprint appeal status would be a great report. If when you enter an appeal for an activation, whether you had issues entering that activation through the portal, you had to make a phone call to activate that phone, and you submitted it through the appeals portal. All of that is supposed to be submitted through the appeals portal in Webpos. So once you submit an appeal, you want to check and verify the status of that appeal. You could go to Sprint appeal status, and this report is going to generate all of your appeals that you've submitted. So if I enter an appeal in, let's say, the middle of January, I'm going to run a report, if I don't remember, from the beginning till, let's say, today, and it's going to pull up all of the submissions I've entered within that time frame. Unless you know the ESN for that specific appeal, then you can enter it here, or the appeal ID, which was given to you when you submitted an appeal. You can enter that information as well and locate it that way. So that's a very useful report in itself. Going down to see if you have anything more. Let's see, financing, auto e-pay, formatted reports, enhanced transaction summary, enhanced transaction detail. Like I said, the reports that we covered in this video are going to be the most common reports that you can access and you can use. You can use all of these reports and they all generate useful data of information. It's just determining whether you're going to be able to use it or if you want to use it. So what I recommend is taking some time when you have it, going through these reports and seeing what useful information you can gather from here. But the reports that we covered are the most common reports that you can use in order to grow your business, go over your sales, go over training, or anything like that. It's very useful to be able to access these reports. So all of your reports are located in Webpos. I'll show you one more time. You go to the beginning of web or in your home page, go under reporting, you click on that, and it's going to redirect you under the reporting. And that's it, you guys. If you have any questions, leave us any comments down below. Thank you.